Hey up, another week, another Jess Franco film, but slightly different DVD unit, so it's not all bad. But back to the film at hand, we are going to be looking at Nightmares Come at Night. This is a French psychosexual crime horror from 1970, written and directed by Jess Franco. The film stars Diana Lorries, who's been in a bunch of stuff I've never heard of, maybe outside of one of the Django sequels, and Soledad Miranda, who's worked with Franco a few times, appearing in Count Dracula and Eugene Dessard. This is made of 2 unfinished Franco projects and was considered lost for years, till it was eventually found, stitched together, and released in 2004, and that's the version that we're looking at today. Let's see if it was worth finding, shall we?
Somehow I knew, deep in my heart, that I would only find true peace in my mind and in my soul.
Come on, that's enough, Anna. You have to calm down.
I started feeling guilty. Guilty of not having understood sooner. I had to be punished. Brutally tamed.
The plot follows a stripper called Anne, who one night after a show meets a woman called Cynthia who promises her fame and fortune. The two hook up and end up moving in together, forming a bit of a relationship. But the problems arise when Anne starts having terrible nightmares in which she kills people, waking up the next morning covered in blood. So were they more than just nightmares? And how many nudity scenes can Jess Franco cram into an 85-minute film? This was very rough, very difficult to get through. The plot is super thin and would have felt stretched out in a 10-minute short film. The problem being mostly that any sort of pace or flow is just completely halted by numerous lengthy scenes of sex or nudity.
To tell you the truth, it's not my type. Because after making love, I feel like jumping out the window.
Come inside, now! You don't understand what I'm saying. I'm telling you, I'm going nuts.
So for this next section, I'm going to split it into what I liked and what I didn't like, make it a bit easier. Let's start with the good stuff, shall we? So some of the shot composition is pretty nice. There's a little bit of artistry here and there. It's, it's minor, but there's a few nice shots knocking about in this. I really liked the initial dream sequence, bit of creativity in that, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really good way of kicking the film off. And I really liked the jazzy soundtrack that sometimes dips into sort of free jazz, experimental jazz stuff. My sort of thing. I liked it. And that's about as good as I can get with this. That's about as nice as I can be to the film. So let's move in to what I disliked about the film. Best place to start is probably the appalling dubbing. It's absolutely atrocious. I was getting sort of early PS1 dubbing vibes, made me think of Resident Evil 1 a little bit. The main problem with this being that a lot of the time the characters are talking is these long, lengthy, pretentiously pontificating monologues. A lot of talking without actually saying anything. And sure, it's funny. When you start this film off, it's pretty funny listening to some of these long, pretentious, bullshitty speeches. But you get about halfway through this film and it gets painful. Painfully painful. And you mix this in with the abundance of nudity. This might have like the most nudity in a film that I've talked about on this channel before. It is chock full of it. But then you get these pretentious monologues over the top of it, and it just comes across as this weird sort of awkward, uncomfortable thing. There's a good example is about there's like a 10-minute long scene where Anne is stripping, she's doing a thing, it's the night before she meets Cynthia. And she's just awkwardly laid on a table, smoking a fag, with her tits out, and monologuing over the top of it, and it just goes on and on and on. And it kills any sort of pace, and it starts off being funny, but then just gets painful, and that's really how I could sum this film up. It starts funny, and it just gets painful. You know, you can definitely see that this was two films hastily stitched together. One being this sleazy, boring, like softcore porno, and the other being like an unfinished, half-baked murder mystery. I think really that's about as much as I have to say on this film. I don't really think it's worth me spending much more time on it, to be honest, so let's move on.
Doctor, wait! I want to see you at the hospital tomorrow.
No,
But why not?
because I won't be there.
Sucks. How can you just lie there like that?
I'm patient, that's all. It's only... The world is ours. Nothing can stop us. Look, stare deeply into my world.
Okay, let's have a look at the print. It's not awful. When it's clear, it's really clear and quite crisp, and the sound's pretty good. But every now and then, it's far too dark. There's a really funny moment that really had me laughing. It's supposed to be this like scene of a three-way, but it's pitch black and you cannot see anything that's happening apart from this pasty dude's arse that's just sort of like right centre of the screen. It's pretty ridiculous. And then every now and then as well, the print's really foggy. It's sort of misty and like smoky, and this is the thing, I don't know if these are stylistic choices for the film or if these are print issues. To me they look like print issues, but they probably aren't. Either way, they're pretty distracting. And on the disc we get a 23-minute interview with Franco, we get a 25-minute mini doc about the production company Eurocine, pretty interesting stuff. We get a filmography and biography for Soledad Miranda, we get a trailer for this film, and we get a selection of Hard Gore trailers. Honestly, for a budget release, it's not too bad really. Okay, case time. I wanted to start by looking at the cover, because I think that it's a little misleading. So I saw this and I thought it'd be a vampire film. You know, you've got a gothic looking woman, you got bats, and the title could be vampire or werewolf, or even at a push, some sort of gothy crow knockoff. But no, the film is nothing like the cover would suggest, and there aren't even any bats in the film, which is a bit disappointing really. I like a good bat. The description is fine, and all the information's correct. There's not much to say about this case really. It's pretty standard, fine, run of the mill, does its job. Overall then, you know, I'm beginning to think that I actually just don't really like Jess Franco films. Like the others that I've talked about, it's just too boring for its own good. It spends far too much time pontificating and stripping off, and not enough time trying to get me invested in any sort of character or story. But I mean, it is a Jess Franco film, what did I expect? I wouldn't recommend this film, but if you've seen anything in the review that's piqued your interest, or you're just into Franco, this version's not awful, there's special features, the print's fine for the most part, and you could probably find it pretty cheap. If you do want an upgrade though, and you're into your importing, there is a Blu-ray knocking about from Redemption again. So, once again, not a great Franco film. But we're now at the end of our little Jess Franco collection that the Spine's advertising to us. Sort of. Because next episode, he didn't direct the film, but he did write it. So we're not quite out of the Franco woods just yet. Next episode, we're going to be checking out Cannibal Terror.